So there's been a lot of discussion about Concord, Dustborn, the player numbers, and basically why people are so quick to jump and celebrate the death of these multi-million-dollar projects. And as somebody who covers the dying games that come out that spend millions of dollars in not only advertising, but in development costs, just to watch them miss the trends completely and fail and die and then get shut down, this topic is something that is really close to home for me because this is what I do. PC Gamer put out an article yesterday in which they were basically saying the eagerness to grave dance on unpopular games has become a bad habit. And in the article, they discussed the Concord player numbers being so low that people are kind of just celebrating its death, and they're laughing at the developers and turning them into the laughing stock of the industry when after, 8 years in development, they put their blood, their sweat, and their tears into this game, and it just didn't work out. Dustborn is another example of a game that it was 6 years in development. They took money from the European Union in their grants. They spent millions of dollars on that game, blood, sweat, and tears put into it again, and it didn't even peak over 100 players. And now, all of a sudden, in 2024, we're not supposed to talk about it. If this was 2023, though, PC Gamer can write an article basically pointing out that more people are playing Prey than Redfall. They can dance all they want in 2023, but 2024, us gamers, we gotta shut up. We're not supposed to ask questions because that's what a lot of people are doing. Yeah, there are unhinged people online that are just laughing and praying for games' downfall, and I've always said that that is a weird mentality to have. Truthfully, I am somebody who wants every single game to come out and blow the fucking doors open. You guys make so much money, you're well off, the gamers are loving it, and I want everybody to win. Of course, it's not a perfect world, and that just doesn't happen. But in the case of Concord, these game journalists are defending the shit out of it, saying that it is a great game, and for $40, like they didn't do the free-to-play microtransactions that a lot of people hate. And while I can agree with that, what they also didn't realize is nobody wants games like this anymore. And specifically, they don't want games made by developers like this anymore. When I was growing up, I watched the peak of gaming happen in about 2004 to around 2009. The PlayStation 3 was out, the 360 was out, and we watched so many IPs just establish themselves. First games coming out, and we loved it, man. It was the greatest time, in my opinion, to be a gamer. And then we watched all of those franchises go to shit. In real time, in front of our eyes, we watch decisions being made by out-of-touch CEOs who are trying to do things that alienate their original target demographics. We see this shit in film and movie all the time. With The Acolyte from Star Wars, the new series, one season, and they canceled it. And the front runner of that series said straight up that they like making men feel uncomfortable, which, like, go fuck yourself. And then when men don't go see the show and then the show gets canceled, yeah, they're gonna laugh at you. Because what did you fucking expect? When the Halo show gets canceled after 2 seasons and the frontrunner says in an article that they didn't look at the game. They didn't talk about the game. They talked about the characters in the world, so they never felt limited by it being a game, when that's what people really wanted. You kept his helmet off for 90% of the show when that's not what people wanted. And in that same article, you say that it's a swing for a broader audience to expand Paramount Plus. That's not, we don't care. Disney has been doing this all the fucking time. And game developers do this shit as well. They'll take a beloved IP like Saints Row and turn it into some Gen Z just cringe fest. And then when nobody wants it and nobody buys it, the developers then lose all of their jobs, the studio shuts down, and then they blame the gamers because we're racist or we're homophobic or we're whatever label you want to throw. No, we're just sick of bad actors coming into the industry who have zero respect for us. And it's been happening for well over a decade. This isn't a new thing. What we're seeing is a complete shift, a tonal shift, if you will, where CEOs are trying to extract any sort of dollar amount out of our wallet. The developers are writing and taking these games to not create them for us. And then when we don't play them and we don't support them and they fail and the developers, lose their fucking jobs, then we get all of these stats about how many layoffs the industry is having and we're supposed to feel bad. Another studio is laid off. Can you believe it? Yes, I can believe it. because you don't want to make games that target the demographics that are buying these fucking games. In the case of Dustborn, a game that was developed over 6 years, millions of dollars spent, including tax grants from the European Union, launched to less than 100 people on Steam. And while it's a single-player title, it's not reliant on a player base, and while that's the story that those developers wanted to make, when they shut down, how are you then going to ask me to feel bad for them? See, we grew up at a time where we didn't really care about the culture war. We cared about playing good games, and we had so many of them. And then as time has gone on, the gaming industry has completely shifted away from those games that we played growing up. We lost that wow factor of new IPs coming out the gate and being absolute fucking bangers. Outside of obviously a few outliers, Black Myth Wukong came out and it is doing insane numbers. Even in this PC Gamer article, they try to equate the $40 price tag of Concord to the likes of Helldivers by saying like, well, Helldivers was $40 and nobody had a problem with it, so it can't be the price tag. No, that's because Helldivers 2 was a great fucking game. That's the stuff that gamers want to celebrate, because that is what reminds them of the glory days of gaming. When companies can come out, be creative, take risks, and actually put in effort and make a fucking game worth playing. Concord wasn't that. Concord was a $40 game with 2 game modes, a few maps, and a cast of characters that resonated with absolutely nobody. It's not a mystery why Concord failed. Yeah, sure, they didn't do the free-to-play microtransaction-fueled, riddled fucking gameplay that we all hate. The reason why people hate that Concord even exists is because Sony, in their infinite wisdom, hasn't been playing in the multiplayer space for well over a decade. They have been sitting back and watching Call of Duty basically lead the charge for their multiplayer space. They have abandoned some of their most notable multiplayer IPs that they have ever had, some of the best-selling games back on the PS2 and the PS3. They have ignored those fans for over a decade. And then when they come out the gate into the multiplayer space, they deliver the one fucking game that doesn't target the demographic that has been asking them for multiplayer shooters for years. And you expect gamers to be happy about it on the heels of them canceling one of the most anticipated multiplayer releases for PlayStation, which was The Last of Us Factions, a game that I think would have sold infinitely more than Concord ever fucking dreamed they could. But yet this is where Sony execs, out of touch old men, decide to put their money in. They aren't listening to the consumer. And you can argue that gaming is art. Developers wanted to make what they wanted to make. They obviously weren't targeting us as the target demographic, and all of that is fine. But then don't ask me to feel bad when you miss the mark so bad that your studio shuts down and all of those developers lose their job. Because I don't. And I'm tired of pretending like we should. If you continually ignore the fans for years, and this isn't just targeted at Sony, this is targeted at Disney, this is targeted at the Star Wars, the Halo IP. If you continually ignore the fans, when you continually shit on the source material that made those IPs what they are today, and when you continuously tell us to go fuck ourselves, if we don't like it, don't buy it. Don't be surprised when we don't.